Kevin. Thanks for being on. I would love to know your routine for practice. So like daily practice routines, you coming in the gym, what's happening with the girls, how's all of that setting up? So do you have a routine for practices?
You mean as far as like what our team does every day? Are you talking about like preparation? What do you mean?
So team every day and not talking like weightlifting or weight training, stretching, all of that. Like you blow a whistle, whatever it is, y'all are coming to the board, talking about whatever. What is that
Yeah,
first initial
yeah.
time?
So I think for us, I would not say that we have major routines as far as what we're doing to start. We like to get into things pretty quick. We do lift every day, even though you just said not necessarily that stuff, but we do
Sure.
lift every day before practice. And then honestly, we just do, if we have three courts, which we do most time, we'll just do over the net 1v1 pepper until they're warm, and then we jump into stuff. If we don't, then we just warm up our arms and pepper maybe 3 minutes, and then we get into things. And what we get into is a wide variety of stuff. It could be some kind of defensive drill. It could be some kind of over the net control thing. It could be me trying to get them to put them in some really uncomfortable situations from a movement standpoint. It could be a lot of different things, but I would not say that uh, we have major routines. I do bring them to the board and say, hey, here's practice, and here's most importantly, here's
Yeah,
why we're doing what we're doing.
I love
But
that.
but not I wouldn't say there's major routines.
And so you're from there, you're going small group almost immediately, from what it sounds like with three
No,
chords.
doesn't have to
Okay.
be small groups. We start out with 1v1, maybe across
Yeah.
three courts, and they're doing like three on a court. Like we have 17 players now, so coach jumps in, and that's you got six on a court, and they're just doing 1v1 over the net, just like literally just
Yeah.
hitting balls back and forth, they get themselves set. And once they're warm, we can jump into just about anything. And it could be small groups. We do some we would call a circuit where we'll do or stations. People call it stations. Maybe we can do some tutoring, like maybe dig some balls or do some
Yeah.
blocking stuff. We could do team blocking. We could jump right into team defense. We could jump right into sixes. Like it doesn't. There's no. I would say we're doing what we feel like we need to need to in order to be as efficient as we can with the time that we have. That's it. That's how I make my decisions.
How much time are you having?
2.5, 2:45, somewhere in that range.
Does that
Typically.
include the weightlifting?
Nope.
Okay. That's good.
Weightlifting's a half hour, 30 minutes every day. And we lift on the road. We lift every day,
Good.
6 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah. We've implemented a lot of weightlifting or weight training in our club last year, and we've seen some big gains. It's just for stamina purposes, it helps. Health reasons in terms of like not getting hurt, it helps a lot. So
Yeah.
we've
There's a
started
lot of
implementing
research
it.
on it, a lot of research on the importance of the hormonal changes that the body goes through after you um, do lift weights and load up. And then also it's great for CNS and it's also great for social. Like
For sure.
like they get to talk to each other instead of talking in the court
Hmm.
and talk about whatever happened in their day. They're doing it in the weight room and no one's bothered by that. Our strength coach gets it. We get it. It's all good. It's all, and then they're getting after it. And we make gains throughout the year. Most people lose strength. Our strongest in December.
That's awesome. I coached high school a while back, 2017, and I pulled on a weight trainer because I was coming from a different school, and the so it kind of gave me a little bit of buffer time to be able to get to school, write my whiteboard up, whatever. So he would weight train them. The one year I brought it, we won a state championship.
There
So
you go.
I got him a ring. I said, listen, you helped us get to that point um, immensely. You gave me a lot of break, and you were able to train them to get to that level. So I got him a ring too.
That's great.
Yeah. Is that routine or practices? Is anything changing according to like a big win or a big loss?
No, no,
Yeah. And
we're
that,
very process oriented.
yeah,
We are step by step trying to, yeah, trying to get better. That's it. I mean, I don't,
and
wins and losses have meaning only as far as seeding and all that kind of stuff and maybe keeping us in jobs. But like we're trying to get better all the time.
yeah,
We look with a very critical eye after every match.
yeah, of course. Um, how much player autonomy are you giving your players? I think Andy Reid was the one that mentioned it. He's like, if Patrick Mahomes or somebody has a play in mind, they're coming to me and talking to me. about it. Are you giving your players any autonomy to do anything in practice?
I mean, we have an open conversation most of the time about things. I mean, autonomy, like there's times when I'll give them options like, hey, we can do this or we can do that, or what
Okay.
do you think about this or what do you think about that? Usually it's kind of a directed autonomy, but
Yeah.
also I think there's space for innovation and there's space for them to explore and there to things. And if they want to try something, we're open to that. I think we're not drawing lots of plays in the dirt, if that's
Yeah.
what, like what Andy Reid means. Like we're not saying
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
but the conversations are ongoing, and I listen more than I'm talking, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge talker. I'm tired of my own voice.
Yeah.
I told you that when you asked me to do this, like I'm pretty tired of my own voice, but
Yeah.
I like your product, so I'm helping you out.
I appreciate that, Kevin. Definitely. When are you planning your practices? Like the day of practice or
Yeah, typically the day of,
okay.
we talk as a staff about what we want to do, what do we want to accomplish, what are the things we need to focus on, how much time, what are the priorities, like, and then I write practice from that
Okay.
extent. Yeah. We
So
we
like you
also,
said,
I think something else, sorry,
yeah,
Ross, sorry.
yeah,
The other thing that is interesting is that we have a wearable. Maybe this is interesting for some people, not for, I mean, maybe not a high school club because most people don't have that, but we do write to a projected load, like to a goal of a load. So we get a number on this wearable. We have a thing called Connexon that gives us this like a workload number after every practice.
sure.
And we have a number that we want to hit for each practice. And I get that from my strength coach. And I'm writing practice to make sure we get to that load. So that's one part of it because we want to continue to build our load as the season goes on. My wife was watching our match against Syracuse just yesterday, last night. We got back and she had it on the TV when I got home, which was at 9 o'clock at night or whatever, and watching the match. And there was a rally that happened, and it was like back and forth across the net, probably 12, 15 times, somewhere in that range. And we ended the rally and we were good. They ended the rally, they were grabbing their knee pads. They're hurting. And
Yeah.
I think it's because we're pushing our guys all the time from a load standpoint. Like we work
Yeah.
hard. You got to work hard.
And you're talking about like arm swings, jumps. You're managing all of that.
Yeah, we don't look at jumps. We look at
Okay.
overall load. Not all jumps are equal. If we did
Sure.
all serving practice, or we did like little jab jumps on the block, those aren't the same as approach jump. So
Yeah.
we look at the load that we look at included in that are accelerations, decelerations, impacts when they hit the floor, jumps, how high they jump, all that kind of stuff, how much they're moving around the floor.
Yeah.
And so we're fortunate that we have that in our gym.
I love that. That's like the catapult thing that I see some of the
Yeah,
football players wear.
yeah, football wears that. There's a lot of
Yeah.
volleyball teams wearing catapult. I think our USA team wears catapult. We use what's called Connexon.
Okay. Yeah, I like
It's a
that.
similar product.
Gotcha. Like you mentioned, we've collaborated on some charts from Sport Charts. How are you letting stats dictate your practices, whether it's stats from practice or even stats in a game? How are you letting that dictate what you're doing in practice?
Well, man, that's a big question. If you're talking about where we spend our time and how we like what percentage of time we're working on what, if I'm talking general terms, like what's the most important things, like
Yeah,
we look at numbers like hitting efficiency, opponent hitting efficiency, number of swings created, points, like those things end up being the most important things every single year. We have a stat that we look at, it's called impact, and it's like points we gain minus points that we give up. And
okay,
that number right there is like a really important number for us. We try to get to 19 points as a team. We're not there yet. We're at 18.4, I think, right now in the conference. But we're like looking at those kind of things all the time. And like when I start writing for the season, I'm going, okay, how do we get to 19 and a half points? Like that,
mhm,
how do we get our team to 19 and a half points? And then start to look at how do we hit over 300? How do we hold an opponent under 150?
got it.
How do you, so we're looking at things that way as far as how we're trying to write practice and what we think is important and where do we spend our time, what percentage of time are we out of system, how important is being efficient in that time, like all that stuff. We're looking at all of that. And then, but as far as like the day-to-day to practice, um, we're looking we're looking at that at the end of practice, more evaluating, is our team headed down this path, not making decisions based on the day to day, more of evaluating it over time and seeing if we're trying to reach the markers that we have set from the beginning of the year. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So I like that impact idea. Keeping at those points. And then, but like, let's say hitting, you stat you're hitting during a game, the next week of practice, let's say you did well hitting, but not great passing. Does your pass look a little, or does your practice look a little bit more pass heavy than hitting heavy because you need to work on that more?
No, because we think passing is and serving is really, really important. So
Yeah,
we're
you're doing
already
regardless.
prioritizing that all the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
we get at least 20 minutes of just dedicated pastime, and we spend at least 45 minutes to probably more like an hour. Some kind of sixes where serve and pass is the start of every single drill and
yeah,
happening multiple times. So no, I mean that's the thing is like the if you prioritize your time and you understand what the important things and you're not reactionary, like people talk about being process oriented. To us, like process oriented is having a vision of where we want to take the team from the beginning, and then understanding what the most important things are and not getting pulled out of that. So then we will spend time, like we already have that built into practice. Where we might spend a little time to what you're talking about is like, let's say we're struggling with the overload, like the go three combination or the gap go combination,
yeah,
like that combination. Maybe we're struggling with that. We might put a little bit more time on that, but in a sixes like a sixes situation, we're forcing that against us. Or if we're struggling against stopping the bick or like the back row attack, we might put that in like a big quick kind of combination. We
yeah,
might spend some time on that. Or stopping the slide, we'll do that. Or if we're struggling in a particular rotation with areas where the ball is being served, we might spend some time on that. But in general, that would be more like where do we put our attention inside this bigger concept of where do we need to make sure our attention always is, like serve and pass, side out offense, out of system
yeah,
offense. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
like we're just adding little nuances to what
yeah.
we're doing to attack those problems that we've identified, but always with an eye to pushing our team to be great at the things that the numbers would tell us are most important.
Well, and the benefit of that is you have the same drills. It's the same drills, you're just changing in those little nuances that come
Yeah,
with it. Hey, instead of working on the gap go here, we're going to work on the slide. So you're
right.
putting more importance on that, but the drill doesn't change.
I we just literally had this conversation with Mike, like, because we're talking about things that the Mike Johnson, who's my assistant, who's got a great mind for volleyball and wants to solve problems. And he kept coming like after our weekend and talking about drills. And I was like, Mike, like the drills don't matter. Like we can run the same drill, but what matters is where do we put their attention on? Like
Yeah,
what we're putting our attention, where our attention is and what we're focused on and what we're communicating to our athletes is what matters. Don't worry about drills. Let's talk about
yeah,
what we need to get our attention on as a coaching staff, where they need to have their attention as players, because that's really where the changes happen is when you have your attention on the right things.
yeah. And it's the why. You mentioned it
Yeah,
earlier.
always.
I, I make sure I try to talk about the why, and I'll stop and explain that inside. Or if I see the drill's not going great, maybe pause it a little bit. Hey, what are we working on here? Kind of
Yeah,
thing. So it goes back to the why. It's not just mindless reps.
100%. If they understand the why, then they can embrace it.
Yeah,
They understand. Then they're gonna make sure if they understand the why and they agree with the why. Those are two things, like they have to
yeah,
agree with it. Then usually they'll work hard to make sure it happens because they
yeah,
understand it's gonna help them win.
yeah. So that big chart that we kind of worked on together, that's just like statting in practice,
That
things
had
or
nothing to do with stats.
oh, okay.
That
What was
had
it
to
for?
do with how we do drills sometimes is
Okay.
instead of like putting guys in rotation, I have 17 players now, right?
Yeah.
So in order to find
Yeah.
ways, to put the players like and maximize their time and put them in the right situations, like we may keep them in the same rotations, especially early on in our training, where we keep them and explore things. Like I might have rotation 2 versus rotation 4, just go at it for 10 to 15 balls, right? Like
Yeah.
a sort of free ball, free drill or whatever, especially early. And so that chart that we created was about that. It was about if you look at it, it was like there's an off, and then there's like
Yeah.
ABC. It was because in a number of games, that's how many games we might play in a practice.
Okay. And so they're lineups. They're just changed
Yeah, it's
lineups.
lineups. So I have on the board, I'll put a court that has A through A, B, C, D, E, F on one side, and then
Mhm.
G through J on the other side, and place the players, and that's it.
Is it ever your starters versus your non-starters? And I think I know the answer to this, but
And then sometimes, and most time, no.
okay. I was gonna say because I did not have the honor to meet Carl, but I've heard great things, and
Hmm.
I'm a product of GMS, and I've met Chris a few times and Mike and all them. So they always talk about never like your A team versus your B team. So during my practice, I'm always athlete mixing kind of thing.
Yeah, we do some A versus B, especially when you
Sure.
start to
Well, you have
identify
to, yeah.
problems. You have to, and we do, but like especially early, we don't, and we try to mix it up a little bit. But Carl did A versus B. I was
Okay.
on the A side quite a bit,
Hmm.
so I don't, now,
Yeah.
and I remember, and I do remember asking him at times like, "Hey, can I go on the B side? Because I wanted to go against a guy named Ethan Watts, who's an Olympian.
Yeah.
Like he's going to make me better, and I want to make him better." And
Yeah.
Ethan was like, "Hey, I want to go against Kevin because we were the two middles on the team, and can we go at it? Because we want to be challenged more." And there was no offense to the other middles that
No.
were there, but he's an All-American. I ended up doing the same, and like it's nice to go play against that. So we wanted to push each other. So I remember asking Carl for that time, but there definitely was some A versus B time. So
Yeah.
sometimes when people talk about it, when the reality is there's a little bit of a difference there. Doesn't mean that time where you're mixing up isn't great. I mean, there was definitely that time as well.
Sure. I guess speaking of Carl, and like that lifelong learning style, um, and is there anything that you're still learning or currently trying to learn a little bit more at this
Oh.
level?
Well, I think yes, everything. I don't know anything, Ross. I don't feel like I know anything. There's that, I don't
Yeah.
know if it's Socrates or Plato or whatever. I can't remember. I'm not good with quotes. My wife,
Yeah.
my kids will tell you that I'm the worst with lyrics you'll ever meet. But I understand concepts, and the concept of like the more you learn, the less you know is a reality. But I think we changed a lot of things. We've changed a lot of things over the last 5 years, a lot.
Yeah.
And mostly because just watching how the game's changing and how do we respond to that. And um, people are way more creative, and the athletes are so physical and so skilled right now that
Yeah.
we have to change the way that we're playing. And so I'm always evaluating everything really, and very, very open to change.
Yeah.
I think if you're not, then you're missing out on opportunities for growth inside your team and in
Yeah.
danger of falling behind and getting beat pretty handily.
Well, that's even what we're preaching to our players anyway. Like if you're not willing to make changes and fail, then you're not trying to get better. And so if we're as coaches stuck in our ways, I think, then we've got to be able to learn and adapt as well. What is one of those things that you see changing in that game?
Well, I think the way, I mean, a simple one is this. I think the way that the people are attacking along the net, like it used to be kind of we're attacking in at the pins, and we're
Mhm.
attacking in maybe the middle of the court, and then in the gap zone or whatever, like the
Yeah.
three zone if you're doing the 1 through 9, like,
Yeah.
and that was kind of it. And now you're seeing people attacking, including us, all across the net, all around. So in the old way, if you're only at the pins and you're in the middle of the court, you could swing block and get out to the pins, and your people are doing all that. But when you're starting to attack in these different spaces, including if you watch our team, our go is in probably like 4 or 5 different spots, depending on where the ball is and like how far inside we're playing, that you can't just make one block move anymore. You have to, and then there's
Yeah.
multiple attackers. And so we've actually, when we teach blocking, we teach, see the hitter and get in the right spot and be on time and be over. But how you get to that spot, you have to create a giant toolbox of ways. And in fact, the best
Yeah.
toolbox is just go be an athlete and either run over there or shuffle over there or do whatever you have to get over there and be on time and be over in
Yeah.
the right spot. And that's it, and so we actually break up a lot of their motor programs that they've learned. I'm a club coach too. We're both club
Yeah.
coaches that they learned in club, let them break those up because they have two ways to move. There's like a 1-1-2 shuffle jump, And then they
Yeah.
have crossover, and that's it. That's all they know. And most of the crossovers are already starting with their arms out and they're facing the outside. And there's just too much stuff to block now. We have to like open them up a little bit. So it takes a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Well, and I mean, these are good points, and I'm gonna bring up or ask some 18s questions here in a little bit for my own club aspects of
Okay.
it. Are you running that go in those different sections on purpose? Is that like a
Yeah.
particular play, or are you saying like wherever the ball's passed is kind of what we're running?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like how do we keep them in tempo and put them in the best situation to score?
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Um, so yeah, we can jump into that club aspect of it. You're
Uh,
coaching club again. What would you like to see from some of these 18s coaches like myself getting these players ready? What's one thing that you want like some of these 18s coaches to prepare a little bit better during club?
well, to answer that, I would be like pretending like I understand all of the constraints of what it is to be an 18's coach. So
Okay.
instead of answering that, like I would say like the places and people can fill in where they want to and just don't at me or whatever with the stuff because
Yeah.
I understand we're all coming from different places and we have different constraints as far as training time and personnel and all of that. But
Yeah.
the places that I think where our athletes come in and are the furthest behind are serving and how hard and aggressive they need to serve.
Okay.
And then their ability and some of the constraints are the sizes of the courts, obviously, like the
Yeah.
spaces that they're stepping on parents' feet trying to get enough space to serve, you know.
Yeah.
I'm there, I'm watching my kid play and I see it. Uh, with that, the passing, seeing the serves that are aggressive enough to put pressure on passers and their ability to handle real service pressure. And then reading the game and blocking, like the combination, like seeing hitters blocking, like they just don't understand those things very well. And the last one I throw in there is just some of the decision making of the attackers of understanding situations and the decisions that they like decision to when to go for it, where to go for it, where to attack, how to attack. They just are pretty far behind in that stuff. And a lot of it hasn't been forced because they haven't seen good enough blocks and they're not out of system enough because they're not getting tough enough serves. So
Yeah.
I think those are the biggest jumps that they have to make as they get into our game.
Yeah. And I like the idea of seeing. Are you teaching eye work a lot?
Honestly, yeah, of course. I mean, we're spending most of our time about, like we talked about attention just a minute ago. Like, what are you paying attention to? What are you looking at? And then
Yeah.
what are you seeing? How fast, and trying to get them to process the game faster and put them in the position to make plays. Like, that's such a big part of this. And then recognizing that from a defensive standpoint, that's huge. And how fast can they get their attention on the right things? And then from an offensive standpoint, being aware of like what the other team's doing and then how do we score points? Like, I think people get so caught up in attacking mechanics and how hard they hit and like arm swings and all that stuff. And certainly we spend time on that. But
Mhm.
you can hit, I mean, we had a kid, Kenna Vicini, who had no arm, no offense to McKenna, but like she would say, she had not a lot of heat. But you can find ways to score if you're playing smart and if you're processing things fast and you're aware of what's going on the other side. She ended up hitting 420 in her senior year without
Yeah.
really hitting a ball anywhere close to as hard as either of my middles hit it now. But I would take it again 100% because she could block and she was smart and she could read the game. And then when we put a ball on her and gave her an opportunity to score, she knew where to put it to score. And it could be a tip, it could be a jam, it could be a swing, it could be a wipe, it could be whatever, but she knew how to score. And I
Yeah.
think that players aren't thinking that way as attackers.
Interesting. I like that take. I've got a girl on my 18th team this year. Well, my two outsides right now. One's a top 5 outside in Florida, and the other one is like a little shorter. She came from Brazil and
Okay.
just shots all day. Can't jump very high, doesn't hit it super hard, but just shots all day and can pass out of her mind. So like that's OH2, to a T.
Yeah, I mean,
And so
yeah,
I'm taking
you're
that.
going to win games if you can handle the ball and kids can hit the ball in bounds a lot and attack
Yeah.
players and find ways to score and probe. Yeah, that
Yeah.
kid's gonna score. She's gonna help you win for sure.
Yeah. It says we only had like 5 minutes left. If it gets
Okay.
disconnected, I don't have too much more, but if we get
Okay,
disconnected, I'll just make another link and send it to you.
cool.
Um, So I only have 9 players on my 18s team this year. Any
Mm.
advice on if I'm not running sixes a lot, should I be just working on all the fundamental stuff and just getting it harped in?
Yeah, I'd probably do like modified court stuff as much as possible and do
Okay.
small court spaces and cut the court in 2/3 and go middle left versus middle right and like try to create as many opportunities as I could to attack that. Even like take it at angles. Like when we have that in the spring, we create a ton of modified courts where we're saying, okay, we're going to take these, here's a 10-foot line and here's the corner, and we're going to just put tape down and make it like almost like a trapezoid. And you guys
Yeah.
are playing in this space, or we're playing in this smaller space. So we're going to cut the court, make it shorter, make it like, and just do as much modified stuff where you still can get them in situations where they can see the game, process the game, and try to find ways to score. Like that's how we do that in the spring when we have
Yeah.
modified. We don't have enough people.
Well, it's going to be essentially like private lessons or group training. It's going to be just so like, nitty gritty. We'll be able to get down to like making our team just tighter, I think is kind of the goal.
Yeah, but you can do a lot as far as 4v4, three
Yeah.
versus three, and you could still get a lot out of that.
Yeah, the girls' game doesn't have a lot of that, at least from what I've seen. The men's, they could do that for 4 hours and be fine. Women's, it's tough to,
My
you know,
team, my team would do that all practice and be stoked.
just 3-on-3, 4-on-4.
But like not 3 versus 3 on a full
Yeah.
court, like modify
No,
the
yeah,
court,
yeah,
make it
yeah,
smaller. Do like we do that stuff in the spring. They love it. They have a blast.
yeah. That's awesome.
Make it super competitive and get them talking trash, and it's on. Like let's go compete. It's great.
Yeah. So you said this year you're coaching your daughter in club.
Yeah.
Um, does that change how you coach the college players? Or I'm assuming you've like coached her through her years. Not
Never
in
coached
club,
her.
but just like, hey, technique? No, nothing.
No, we had a deal
Okay.
that I'm not going to coach her. She's coming to the gym. She struggled passing. She, her mom thinks we do a good job of teaching passing. So her mom
Yeah.
convinced her to come in and like,
Okay.
why don't you come with dad? Like, and do some passing. You're like, this
Yeah.
team's one of the better passing teams in the NCAA. Maybe you can learn something. And so I think we've had 3 sessions. That's it.
Okay.
And it was
Yeah.
like 3 half-hour sessions. It was like, hey, look, let's get you a plan, and then let's reinforce that plan because she didn't really have one. And then you can go work on it on your own. But we have a deal where I wasn't going to coach her. This kind of surprised me that she even would let me do this. And they needed a coach in her club team, and she was on board, and I was excited to do it because mostly because she's gonna leave me. She's gonna be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this time I think I'll never regret being around
Yeah.
her. But it won't change the way I coach my college team
Okay.
at all. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it because that's my real job. Even
Yeah.
though when she comes to the game, she's like, "That's funny. The Division 17's coach is coaching Stanford." Like that's how her team talks about that and like jokes around. But like my
Oh,
real
yeah.
job is a Stanford
The
job. I'm not gonna
other
do
way. Yeah.
anything. Yeah, I'm not gonna sacrifice any of that. I think the thing that'll be interesting is I don't really know how I'm gonna coach the 17s. I know I have a vision of what I want to do with them, but I'm gonna meet them where they're at, and like as I get to know them, then I'll adjust to them. I think that's part of the art of coaching is you need to meet your team where they are, not come in like, hey, I'm going to train you this way and do this. I'm going to train them with what I think makes the most sense based on what I learned from them.
Yeah. I like that. And so that kind of leads me to my next question. I have a 1.5-year-old
Okay.
and a girl, and I was looking for some advice on how to get her interested in volleyball. What's the dad to volleyball player like?
Yeah.
What's some tips, advice you have?
I have no tips. I have no advice. I can tell you what we did. So she was around it because she had no choice. Like our kids were both around it. Now I have two.
Okay.
One is
Yes.
not playing in college. The other one is playing in college. So
Yeah.
one thinks what I do, the oldest son thinks what I do is absolutely ridiculous and thinks that the fact that I get paid for this is just crazy. He's in economics. He's going to be an economics major in college, or he is an economics major in
Yeah.
college. He's a really sharp kid. He's gonna end up one of the UCs. Like he's smart. And I'm like, you're right. I hope you find something as silly that pays you as well as it pays me. And he just, of course, he's like, that makes sense, Dad. My other one was around it all the time. So she was fascinated by it. She would sit on my lap, watch video, like from age of 3, 4 on. She wanted to learn how to play. So we did stuff with balloons and I taught her how to basically how to like pass and then get on an approach and step close and swing. And she wanted to do that for a while. So that's it. But
Yeah.
that's it. Like I would just toss her balloons. And then when she asked me to play balloon volleyball, we put a string up in our kitchen from probably 8 years old on. Her and I would play 1v1 balloon volleyball like all that time. And I would
Yeah.
never let her win. I would never let her win. In fact, I think she's beat me twice in her entire life. And I think she just loved it and fell in love with it. She just fell in love with volleyball and wanted to play, and
Yeah.
she was obsessed. But we did not force them. We did not ask them. She begged us in the club. I think if we tried to push it on her, it would have failed miserably.
Yeah. And that's the advice. I think I'm not trying to push her.
Yeah.
I think just have her around it. The girls, that we coach are awesome, and just being in that environment, I think she's just going to want to be a part of it.
And if she doesn't,
And yeah.
like my son wasn't, we're like, cool. What are you going to be
Yeah.
into then? That's it. So I think if you push them, they're out. If I push my son to be in economics, he'd be like, I'm out. So like
Yeah.
you'll see, man. They're not communicating exactly like the way
No.
that they will when they're 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the teenagers forget it. But they're their own people, and there's not much you can do. They're going to do what they do.
Yeah. We'll watch some games on during the day, and she knows what it is.
Yeah.
And we'll take walks, and then the field, like across from our apartment, there's some people just peppering. She'll stand there and just watch them for 10 minutes. She's fascinated by the movement of the ball. And then it's either a volleyball or a golf club. I don't know. We'll get into some. I'm not forcing it. I'm just like, if she's interested.
Either
That's
way,
my
good
goal.
luck. Either way, good. It's a fun ride,
Yeah.
no matter what they're into.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
No worries.
All right. Last one. What's your favorite drill? I know we talked about not doing too many drills, but what is your favorite drill?
I don't know that I have a favorite drill. I'm not going to answer your question directly. Sorry,
Okay.
but what I will say is I love the having a problems and then creating problems for the team that they have to solve. Like create drills that create problems they have to solve and allow them that space to solve the problems. So like most of our control pepper stuff that we're doing, like we're not doing typical like 3-versus-3 cross court pepper and like here's a left front and a left back and a right front and we're gonna hit at you. We'll go, here's 3 people in corners and this person's gonna dig here and swing all the way around over here to if they dig in left back, they're gonna hit right front. And this person's going to set, and then you're going to figure out ways to rotate. And we're going to figure out ways to create swings and put you in all these really uncomfortable situations. And you got to figure out how to make it work. Because what's amazing about that is, and I did this with a club team, with 16-year-olds, and I've done this with college, and I've done it with younger, is that they figure it out. And it's like to see them do that and how their movement changes and how it opens them up. It's really fun. It's like I just love doing that stuff and creating as much of that as possible. I like chaos, and I like teams figuring out how to create order out of chaos.
Yeah, creative problem solving, because there's nothing that gets repeated a lot in our game, so it's gonna be chaos in the game anyway. So how do you?
Chaos. Yep.
Yeah, how do you figure out and problem solve and make adjustments in that moment? I think.
And how else can you become skilled enough to solve those problems without putting them in problem situations?
Oh, yeah. Or getting them feeling like they can't get out of it, or this is it, or doomsday type things. They've been through a lot, already in practice, so the game becomes kind of nothing to them. Yes, there's pressure, but it makes it a little bit easier.
I mean, I'll add this last little bit. When we teach passing, like we teach a little technique here and there, and then we put them, if they're having tons of success, and then we're not doing it right. They need to fail a lot in passing. So we're creating problems for them, like harder serves, more aggressive, flatter, more down, like whatever, to help to force them to solve the problems of I need to create an angle, or I need to learn how to organize my body the right way, and we'll force that through failure. And to do that, you got to stress them all the time, create problems. Yeah.